Hi boys and girls, last time we were talking about the water cycle and where water comes from, what do we need it for, what do we use it for, and we read this book, All the Water in the World, and you got to come up with a dance that showed the way that water moved. Well, today we're going to talk about how water actually does move. So you might remember in the book they talk about how all the water that we have in the world is all the water that we've always had. So we can't make new water. We have the same water that we've always had. And so the way that water moves is through the water cycle. So there are 3 steps in the water cycle that are especially important. You may know that water can be in 3 different states. So the first state is as a liquid. So that would be the water that we can drink, wash our hands with, and that's water that you would find in an ocean or a pond or a lake or a river. So that water, as you can see on my chart here, is right here. So we've got this big pool of water down here, and the sun is heating that water up. So you might have seen someone cooking in the kitchen before, and they would have a pot of water on the stove. And when that water gets really hot, you can see steam coming up. That's the water changing from a liquid to a gas. Well, something really similar happens in the water cycle. It's called evaporation. So the water actually goes up into the air when it heats up, and we can't even see it when it does that. So it goes up, 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 and then those water molecules, they form together into clouds, and that's called condensation. So those clouds are up in the sky, and you've probably seen them moving. Sometimes they move really fast, sometimes they move really slow, but they move all over the place. And then when they're ready, what comes out? Rain or snow or sleet. And we call that precipitation. So that's the next step in the water cycle. So that precipitation can be a liquid like water that we would drink, or it can be a solid like snow or even ice if it's hail. And so that rains down or snows down and lands on the ground, in an ocean, in a lake. It lands somewhere, right? So you can see I've drawn some mountains here. When that water or snow falls on the mountain, it does something called runoff. So that runoff moves the water from wherever it lands to where it needs to go. So it might be used to water some plants. It might land in a little pond that animals can drink from, or it might land on the ground, and then it would run off into a river, which would eventually lead it back to a big body of water. So when precipitation happens, some of that water goes to plants and animals. Some of it we gather for ourselves, but a lot of it will go back into big, large bodies of water. So I have something over here that you've probably seen before. This is called a marble run, and we're going to use it as an example of what happens when water falls from a cloud. So pretend I'm a cloud. I am going to precipitate. So I'm going to drop this marble. You can probably guess what this is supposed to be. I'm using it as water. So I'm going to drop this water from my cloud. We're going to see what happens. So I dropped it all the way over here, and then it went through all these crazy moves and landed all the way down here. So when a cloud drops water, it's not just dropping it and landing in one place and that's where that water is going to stay. It moves all over the place. So what do you think happens if I'm a really big cloud and I drop it all over? So you may have noticed that some of the water, or our marbles, went down really fast, and some are still going. You can see these 2 started on completely different sides, and they ended up in the same place. One of them was stuck there for a long time, and now look what's happening. It's finally made it into its resting place. So the water, it comes from one cloud and it moves in all sorts of different ways, so that we call that runoff. So your challenge for this lesson is to create a structure using something you can find in your house. So it could be something like blocks, or it could be something like paper and utensils from the kitchen. Whatever you want to use that you ask permission for to use in whatever you can find, I would like you to make a structure that shows what happens when water falls from the sky and shows what runoff looks like. So you can use something like a marble, or if you make a structure outside or in your bathtub, you could use water for it. And I want you to try it out and see what happens when you drop water or a marble or another small ball. See what happens. So that is your challenge for this lesson. Again, I would love to see what you make. You can take a picture of it, or you can take a video and share that with your teacher, and your teacher will share it with me. All right, I'll see you next time.